Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Who Am I? I'm kind of in the middle of shifting the show around a little bit. What I have been focusing on for the last several months is just my thesis presentation, which is my general statements about what I believe is going on in reality, where I believe that most of the woes of humanity, if not all of the woes of humanity, are being caused by a misunderstanding of reality itself. Who am I? A misunderstanding of who I am. I think we don't know who we are, and I think we don't know how it works. And that's what's causing our problems. So I believe that a better understanding from two levels brings better outcomes, both for us individually. We can create better lives for ourselves individually, and collectively, we get to the holy grail of things going better for us, which is unlimited, free, clean energy plugged directly into the source of all energy. That's what I think we're looking at. I think that's what the problem is. I think that our centralized energy systems are causing centralized power issues. That's why we have empires and world war and authoritarian dictators and all kinds of stuff that would not be an issue if our power systems were decentralized. And I believe that that's going to come from us understanding who we are as source energy. What is source energy, and how does this whole thing work? So, up until yesterday, shall we say, my focus has been my whole thesis. Start at the beginning and connect all the dots. This is what the law of attraction and how you create your own reality. And that's just an expression. You don't actually create a whole reality of your own that is completely different and separate from everybody else's. That's not what it is. But you have a great deal of leeway when it comes to how you focus your thoughts and your feelings and how you take your impulses. So if you're taking negative, if you're focusing on negative things and expressing negative emotion, you're getting a scrambled impulse from the universe as far as knowing what you want and where what you want is and how to get from where you are to what you want. You're picking up scrambled signals if you're taking it from a negative place. You kind of gotta do some translating and backtracking and whatever to try to figure out what the real impulse is, because who you really are is a positive person. You are pure positive energy. Actually, there is an aspect of you that is pure positive vibrational energy connected to all things. And that pure positive aspect of yourself, you cannot escape. And so when part of you takes a negative thought and focuses in on something that you don't want, you end up getting crosswise of the greater part of who you are. Um, you can't escape that pure positive person. So, and when you take a negative thought, the difference in frequency between who you really are and that thought that you're having in this moment, that's what you call the experience of negative emotion. Now, I'm not actually doing the full presentation right now. I'm just kind of trying to add up all of the details in a what's the word? Ah, did not mean to do that. There, okay. Hold on one second. I'm feeling like I sound a little lower today because I actually think that I've caught my husband's cold. I hope that I am not contagious because I do want to go to bowling this morning and everybody wants to see me there. So, so I guess you have to ask, if I'm not talking about my full presentation this morning, then just what am I doing? The show is Who Am I? And the the idea um, is to explore the very question of what it means to be a human being. Because I think we take a lot of it for granted, that it's understood, that everybody else gets it, that we just need to keep, I don't know, I don't know. But I know that we don't get it. I know that we don't get it because we're still burning fossil fuels. And the burning of fossil fuels is creating a paradigm of scarcity across the planet that we need to get away from. That paradigm of scarcity is not true. The actual paradigm that we exist in ultimately is one of infinite abundance. Absolutely as much abundance as you can imagine and imagine yourself moving towards. That's what's possible. Absolutely unlimited possibilities. And yet, what do we have? We have worldwide poverty. Well, I mean, it's not everybody across the world, but there's way too much. Billions of people on this planet live in a paradigm of scarcity and lack, and that's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable, even though we all, are pretty much responsible for our own path. There's a flow and a trajectory that we are all participating in. And you really can't get away from what your neighbor is doing and what your neighbor has going on because for a lot of reasons. First of all, we are all in this together. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time really talking this morning. It's kind of the weight of a cold pressing down on my face and such. It's all part of being a human being, isn't it? Who am I? Who am I and how does this work? I suppose at some point, my goal is to have my general thesis um, understood. And then we just start from there and talk about possibilities. I think that's what I would like this show to be at some point. Right now, we're still kind of in the area where perhaps I am still trying to get the groundwork clear about just what it is I'm trying to say about the nature of reality and our understanding of the nature of reality and how a better understanding of the nature of reality will get us to better outcomes in our human lives. So, I often bring this little subject up. I think that it's relevant. This is considered to be the root cause of all suffering from the point of view of Buddhist philosophy. And I can see how this relates to what it is I'm trying to say because I think our suffering is coming from we don't know who we are. We don't know who we are, so we're misidentifying ourselves. And when we do that, now here, the five kleshas, they are from Buddhist philosophy considered to be the root causes of all suffering. Not knowing what's real, grasping and clinging to the unreal, being afraid of the unreal and recoiling from it, identifying with an imaginary self, and then fear of death. Now, I see this very same thing, slightly different. I I don't think it's so much identifying with an imaginary self as sort of misunderstanding the self that you're looking at. You are a binary system. You are your physical, specific self. On the one hand, of course, everybody knows that. You can tell you're living in a physical body. Everybody has that experience. but you are also an aspect of you, a very profound aspect of you, is um, pure positive vibrational energy connected to all things, connected to the flow of all things, connected to the reality of your molecules and atoms and um, um, this aspect of you, which is pure positive energy, is eternal. And it's you. It's also you. Abraham Hicks, Abraham, the wisdom of Abraham, Abraham calls this your inner being. And I actually like that nomenclature. I think that's a nice, it's matter of fact. It's not emotionally charged. It's just, but it's also who you really are. It's who you really are. I think of that as who you really are because it's who you always are. That's your eternal aspect. That's the aspect of you that doesn't change. Everything else about everything else changes. So that's kind of an aspect of reality too, right? The fact that everything is made of this morphogenetic field, this quantum field of Planck oscillators, of quantum particles, little Planck frequencies, solid pack in the space, so energetic, so dense, and yet the screening mechanisms and um, the scaling um, makes it so that you aren't overwhelmed with the data. So, one of the things I postulate in my little program, which I'm sort of I'm sort of doing it in a different way. It sounds like I actually am sort of making the presentation, but I'm doing it from a different perspective. I'm not just saying the same exact thing over again. I'm sort of going to be describing it from a different direction. So, this quantum field, if you will, more and more people are starting to realize how amazing this divine matrix that we are all embedded in and experiencing and co-creating with, what its character and nature and potential actually is. It is an infinitely morphogenetic field that is the one constant in this field of fluctuation is that things are always changing. This morphogenetic field is always morphing. But, so let's see, do I really want to do the whole thing? Or do I just kind of want to describe what it is that I do and then jump into something else? Talk about the world, get up to speed, understand who we are and what we're really talking about, and then from a non resistant place, turn and look at current events. Look at our political situation without fear, without pushing um, back on anything, without resistance of any sort. Just realize that in 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 a very profound way, we are completely safe because who we really are is we are the field. We are the field, and nothing can hurt us because we are this morpho- morphogenetic field. I keep saying that. And the one constant about it is that it morphs. I've said that too. I do have a problem with this show sometimes in the sense that I can get to repeating myself. You try talking to yourself for even a half an hour straight, without blank spots, without, you losing your place, and, you know, keep track of what point you're really trying to make. It's not the easiest thing, actually. I've been working on it. That's one of the points of this show, that I am working on my ability to express this whole picture. And what is this whole picture? Well, my thesis is that all of our suffering is being caused by us not knowing who we are. And it even causes all of our specific, mundane problems, like the very fact of our energy system is being caused by the fact that we don't know who we are. 100 years ago, when Nikola Tesla, well, actually, it was more than 100 years ago, it was like 140 years ago that Nikola Tesla was alive and working on his stuff. Excuse me. He had the idea, he understood that if you wanted to really understand this universe, this world, the reality of the world around you, how it plays out and what it means, you needed to think in terms of energy and frequency and vibration, because we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And you are more than one aspect. You need to think of yourself in more than one way. You are your physical body, for sure. You can tell that you are. You come into this physical beingness as a baby in a physical body. That body grows. You grow within it. You get sick. You go to the doctor. You cut yourself. I mean, you are your physical body, but you're not just your physical body. You're way more than just your physical body. You are behind your physical body, or foundationally to your physical body. You are made of quantum particles that are connected to all other quantum particles through entanglement, through so what is my story? And what is the point that I'm trying to get to? I'm 17 minutes in to a show that I'm not exactly sure. I know that there's some good stuff in here. So, from Abraham's point of view, Abraham talks mostly about how this configuration that we don't necessarily understand too well, how our better understanding of it would give us a much better understanding of the meaning of our negative emotions, our negative and positive emotions. The fact is that the beings that we really are, that we eternally are, that we are connected in reality to each other and all things, that actual reality is pure positive. It's pure positive, and it's vibrational, and it's eternal, and it is thinking thoughts. Apparently, your pure positive vibrational connected self is always thinking thoughts. You may not have realized that it was thinking thoughts because you're just so busy with your own thoughts. But you, as a binary system, you are actually thinking two sets of thoughts. One is your inner being, your vibrational self, connected with all things, knowing what's really happening and very joyful about it, um, is still looking through your eyes, because you are the system, which is both the macro and the micro. And the macro is your broader perspective. It's the aspect of you that's connected to all things, all actual physical things. So this is the aspect of yourself that is connected to the holographic universe. And what is this holographic universe of which I say? Well, the universe is holographic, and the new the new unified physics understandings brought to us by Nassim Haramein and all of his physics and mathematics team over at both the International Space Federation and the Resonance Science Foundation. Now, they don't know me, and I am not sanctioned to be speaking their, stuff. Nobody has, this is my own gig. I see connections between these things. I have a way of absorbing gurus. I try to see what everyone is pointing at, what they're looking at, because all thoughts are. It's okay to try on all thoughts. You can do that. You can take somebody that you think is wise and has got a nice package of what they're saying, and you can input it. What are they looking at? What are they talking about? What is their understanding? It's just a point of view. It is absolutely safe to take within to yourself everyone's point of view. And as a matter of fact, I would advise doing that. I would advise doing that. I think that addition is the way to go. I don't think it's possible. If you really want to understand the whole world, you need to input everything that you come across. You can't pick and choose. You can't say, well, I'm going to input this, but I'm not going to input that. Now, you can focus differently. You can choose to focus where you want to focus. But if you come across a fact or an experience or a vibration or an emotion or whatever you want to call it, you come across a piece of information, you can't subtract it. Now it is part of the whole thing. It's part of the allness. So you got to input it. But you can focus where you want to. So what am I saying? I came across Nassim Haramein and all of his unified physics and his description of the spinning nature of reality, let's see, the fullness of space, black holes all the way up and all the way down, the relationship between the density of the universe at the quantum level and the density of the universe at the cosmological scale, and the mathematics that connects that, and what it implies about spin and what that implies about gravity and consciousness, the feedback of universal consciousness and all that. I came across his stuff and it absolutely resonated with me. I went, oh my gosh, I can see what he's saying. I totally get what he's saying, and oh my gosh, this is going to be a game changer. And then I came across Abraham Hicks and her discussions of you create your own reality and the inner being and your vibrational nature and how what that means about the meaning of your uh, positive and negative emotions. She talks about the vortex of creation and what your inner being is actually doing. What it's doing is it's right there with you at all times, looking at the same thing you're looking at. You are a binary system, and it's not like both of these beings aren't you. They are both you. Your inner being is you, and your macro is you, and your micro is you. And it's a system designed to have, boots on the ground in a specific way, looking at specific things, while at the same time you have a vibrational, broader perspective that's kind of guiding your general steps, at least into the spirits that you're looking for. You don't have control over the conditions quite the way you think you have, but you do have control over what vibrations you walk into. And I'll tell you right now that loving, happy, positive, connected spirits feel a lot better than disconnected, um, negative, contrary, angry, chaotic spirits. They don't feel nearly as good. Your inner being guides you in general where you want to be or where you do not want to be by the way it feels. That's how you are working your emotions. On the other hand, it's up to you to pick the specifics of your specific life because you are the specific piece of it. Your inner being is more of a general piece. It knows generally. Now, materially, it knows exactly where you are and exactly where every atom is, where every molecule is, where every proton is, it knows how the wind is blowing, how the blood is flowing. It knows everything in specific material reality because, and this is when I realized something. It was like, oh my gosh, I see a connection between quantum physics and the law of attraction. I see why your inner being could know everything that Abraham claims your inner being knows. It's because of the way the physics is actually working, the way that the quantum field is actually feeding back information, feeding it forward, feeding it back, the way I see it. And I know it's dumbed down in a way. I realize it's not the technical, juicy descriptions that you're going to get, from uh, actual mathematicians. But in a general understanding, what is happening is across the field, across the universes, every point is uploading through the jiggle of space time, through this cosmic universal jiggle of all of these Planck frequencies touching each other and jiggling together. They're creating a cosmic interference pattern that contains the information of all things. All the points are uploading to the whole. The allness, the great almighty, the whole thing is downloading its whole information to all the parts all the time, every now. And when I realized that, I went, oh my gosh, everything is connected. Everything is true in its way. Everyone is right. Now, everyone is also wrong. They're wrong if they ever stop adding everything else in because everyone's right. But where you get wrong is where you say, I'm right and everyone else is wrong. Well, you're right about your being right, but you're wrong about everybody else being wrong. You see how that works? And so the answer is add everything up. I call it addition consciousness. I also think that it's related to universal consciousness. It's this allness thing. You can't pick and choose when you're looking at the whole picture. The whole picture has to be there. Now you can choose where you focus in. And this is where I got into trouble yesterday because I accidentally focused in on something that is absolutely my Achilles heel. My Achilles heel has to do with the animal kingdom. I love the animals on this planet. I love to observe the joyful diversity, the playful, funny, quirky nature of all of the beings that we co-inhabit this magnificent space with. And I have been having a problem for a lot of my life because my people, human beings, are not treating the the non-human world very kindly, and it is suffering tremendously. Now, still believe that all of that is coming from. I still have the screen up in front of me, the five kleshas. I think it's coming from us not knowing who we are, not knowing who the rest of biology is, and not fully appreciating the universal consciousness that surrounds us, the consciousness, the literal consciousness looking out of the eyes of every being on this planet. And so, although I absolutely adore nature, I have a hard time with nature shows because they always start with look at how wonderful and fantastic and playful and smart and amazing these, in this case, it was elephants. I was watching a show about elephants and I was all inspired and it was just making me feel so good. And then, of course, they had to talk about poachers and what we're doing, what happens. These poachers, they are murdering members of elephant families and causing their social structures to decline, and they create orphans that are not raised in the tribes of elephants with all of the knowing, the maternal wisdom, and then the masculine wisdom, and the hierarchy, and all the friendships, and the systems and structure of elephant society. It's very complex and very conscious and very loving and very connected in exactly the same way that human society is. And then they talk about, the murderous poachers, and I know why the poachers are murdering elephants. Now, the easy answer is they're doing it for their tusks, they're doing it so that they can monetize, because our monetary systems are forcing us all to link in to this same centralized system, because we have centralized power systems. And if anybody wants to plug their technologies into any kind of energy source, or buy the technologies, or buy the things that the technologies produces, in other words, the way we produce our agriculture, the way we produce our communication systems, the way our transportation systems are set up, and the way that they are driven with fossil fuels and blah, 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 blah. It's all connected. It's all connected. And if we want to live on a planet where we are playing joyfully and lovingly and with deep understanding and sacred appreciation and wholesome, life supporting abundance, we need to know who we are. We need to know who a human being is. We need to know who a being is. We need to know what this morphogenetic field is. We need to know what universal consciousness is. We need to know who we are. That's my main thesis of understanding is all of our problems are being caused by us not knowing who we are. Let's see, I want to find because I don't want to stay on this. Where was my big tree? There it is. It's all being caused by us not knowing who we are. And us coming to an understanding and an appreciation of who we are is going to be the path out. Us understanding this field of energy that connects us all, this fact that we are all holographic. We are holographic beings in a holographic universe. This is why your inner being has the ability to know where everything is. And so Abraham tells us that your inner being is marking all of your preferences and holding them vibrationally. And now you need to get into alignment with your inner being in order to get the impulses and the thoughts and the ideas to move in the direction of what you want, because your inner being knows where what you want is. It occurred to me as I was thinking about both of these two great teachers, Nassim and Esther Hicks, where their um, paradigms were converging, how they supported one another. On the one hand, she uses nomenclature that I think he doesn't appreciate. I watched a video that he made the other day where he was saying, you do not create your own reality. If you did, none of our realities would ever meet. Well, we are co-creating, but within that co-creation of the common reality, each and every one of us is creating within our own universe a very unique expression of the wholeness. So we're all we're all holographic. It's like, the way I like to think of it is, we all have the same vibrational Lego set, right? I have all the information of the universe, and you have all the information of the universe, but you're getting all of your information from the spot on the grid that you are. You're inputting it in through the mechanism of the physical being that you are in this moment. So, are you a human being? Are you a gorilla or a chimpanzee or a parrot or a cockatoo or, you know, or an earthworm? You know, what? How are you expressing it? Because even though we all possess the exact same, in a way, in set of information, you have it. It's coming to me in a completely different way than it's coming to you. You're getting it from your point on the grid, and I'm getting it from my point on the grid through the mechanism of my being. It's completely different. I have my own universe within me. And the universe that we commonly share with one another is so much more complex than most of us are giving it any kind of credit for. You walk down the street and you're sharing the common street and the common quantum soup with all of the beings around you. I'm in this universe, you're in this universe. You're assuming that your experience is very similar to the people around you, and it's not nearly as similar as you think. And every single one of us is having a wildly different experience, but it is all um, it's embedded in the same common wholeness. It's sort of like, I like to use the story of the blind men and the elephant. I think it illustrates several things very clearly. First of all, you can see, so if you don't know what the story is, it's an easy story. It's just illustrating how people can all be looking at the same thing in a way different way, and they can all be right and they can all be wrong. And the actual answer to the whole thing would be if every one of those blind men, instead of assuming that it was only what they were looking at, but rather started to add in what everybody else was saying, they would go, oh, okay, it's like a tree, and it's like a wall, and it's like a sail, and like a rope, and it's like a snake, and yet it's also this other thing because it's not exactly like any of those things, and it seems to be this big connected thing. And we're all right, and we're all wrong. Everybody's right. Nobody's wrong there unless they start thinking that they are the only one that's right and that everybody else is wrong. That's when you actually start getting wrong. And that's kind of the same situation. Every one of us is looking at the same universe in a way because we all inhabit the same universe. It's this almighty allness. I like to call it the Almighty because that's actually a name that people have used for God. But I think that it's vibrationally a fairly accurate thing to say. The Almighty, the allness, the oneness, the wholeness that is this great universe that we are all a part of. This magnificent divine matrix that we are all abiding within, that we are inhabiting, that we are working with, that is an intimate and integral part of the way we live our lives and our understanding of reality around us, because it is producing the reality around us. So we're all in our own separate universe. We're all walking down the same street having way different experiences. I'm thinking about my past, you're thinking about yours. I'm thinking about my problems, you're thinking about yours. I'm looking at it from my angle, you're looking at it from yours. And we're all looking at it through a human lens. And what does that mean? What does it mean to have a human mechanism and look at the world through a human lens? Um, I find a great deal of wisdom coming from both study of the law of attraction and a study of unified physics. And I see where a greater understanding of this whole picture is going to lead us. And this is my expression. I love this expression. It's going to lead us out of the wilderness. What is this wilderness I talk about? Because you might be having a really positive experience in your life, and I really hope that you are and that you do. We are positive beings, and we are supposed to be having fun here. Life is supposed to be joyful. Life is supposed to be um, fulfilling and satisfying and loving and creative and interesting and all the things that you may or may not be experiencing. Now, if you are a human being, you're probably experiencing a mixed bag. You're experiencing some good and sometimes not so good. Sometimes things happen and you don't like it. Um, Maybe somebody dies or leaves, or your country elects the authoritarian dictator and everyone's being mean and nobody seems to understand what their emotions mean, and they're taking things way too seriously, and they're killing off non-human species and also killing off each other, and life is hard. Life can be hard. Maybe you're an addict or an alcoholic and you're living on the street, you've lost everything, and everybody hates you and you don't understand, and you're cold and you're hungry and you don't have a job, and you're a single parent, and you're the only one who can deal with this child because you have no one to help you, and da 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 da. Anyway, there's all kinds of sources of suffering, but remember, now we go back to the five kleshas, which I do believe apply. That this is where I think our actual suffering comes from. But my particular thesis is that I think that all of our problems are being caused, I'm going to say it more simply than this. I think we don't know who we are. We do not know who we are, and that's causing every problem. Primarily, it is causing us to accept a never-ending paradigm of burning fossil fuels. And it's just not true. We don't have to do it. We haven't had to do it for a long time. Now, you may say, what? What? What do you mean we don't have to do it? Well, in a way, we have to do it now because the momentum of all of our physical systems have been built up with the paradigm of fossil fuels in mind. And so, if I want to get from one side of the city to the other, or let alone one side of the planet to the other, I have to use the systems of ambulation that we have been developing for the last 100 years, which means automobiles that run on gasoline and airplanes that run on jet fuel. And there really isn't any choice now because of the momentum of what we've got going on. But ultimately, and at the core, or what's the word for this? We don't have to. We don't need to. Uh, we could have been transitioning off through the mechanism of 1,000 great ideas that have been ruthlessly suppressed by the power structure that wants to keep its power structure. I don't want to be specifically a conspiracy theorist, because if you have ever listened to me, one of my big primary ideas at the top of the thought stream is that there is no us and them. There is no one else who is responsible. Human beings have done all of it. At least I think human beings have done all of it. If you know me, I also have, there is a UFO aspect of this whole thing, because I also believe that we were genetically modified. I think you can see the evidence of it in our genome itself. When I do the full presentation, I always point out, chromosome number 2, and I show you the article in the peer-reviewed scientific journal, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences at pnas.org, and it was published back in 1991. It's this one, where you see that actually what they're saying is that human chromosome number 2 is a fusion of two ancient ape chromosomes. They say it right here, relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion, and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. This would have happened when anatomically modern humans appeared upon planet Earth roughly 200,000 years ago, give or take some millennium. Now, we used to call that Cro-Magnon man. We used to look for the missing link. I think this is the missing link. Now, that's just part of my presentation. I find it interesting. I think it supports all the other things. I think it supports our discussions about what the hell's wrong with human beings. Why do we act the way we do? Why do we kill? Why are we in the process right now of committing planeticide? We are killing ourselves. We are dismantling the fabric of life on Earth itself. We are committing unto this Earth the 6th mass extinction of biological diversity. The first 5 episodes that have happened across planet Earth have happened over eons of time. The first 5 mass extinctions happened from everything from volcanoes, massive volcanoes that erupted that then covered the planet in debris, threw us into a kind of nuclear winter. We've had large asteroids hitting the planet that kind of did the same thing. There have been 5 other incidences where most of the life on planet Earth died off. Right now, we're in the middle of the 6th mass extinction, and human beings are causing it. Now, whether you want to argue about global warming versus climate change and are human beings responsible, blah, blah, blah. If you're talking about that, it starts getting all gray and obscure. But the fact of the matter is that human behavior in general is killing biodiversity on the planet. Everything from the way we I think it's largely our activity with fossil fuels, that our footprint upon planet Earth would be way lighter, and we would be all way more physically capable of handling the real challenges that are happening on Earth right now, if we had a better source of energy. I think that ultimately it's causing, most of our problems are being caused by the use of fossil fuels. And most of that is because we don't know who we are, because we need to understand source energy, right? Source energy is who we are. And source energy, could be a source of energy. We would have moved towards this 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago. But I don't think the consciousness was there. The consciousness, the understanding of who we are as the quantum field and what the quantum field is, what the implications of all of that stuff is, leads to a better understanding of the possibilities of our energy use. Now, if you've ever listened to any of my programs, you'll know that all of that is kind of, in a nutshell, what I'm getting at. Who am I? Who am I? And what am I supposed to do with my little life? Now, the answer is get happy and see what happens. Now, you might say, well, if conditions were better, I would be happy. But as I turn and look at my planet, I see this 6th mass extinction of which you speak. I see this travesty of energy use. I see this centralized power system that, they expect us, all 300 million of us here in the United States. Well, actually, a lot of people don't want everybody to vote because they don't want true democracy. They want their own little gig going through. But in any case, the general system says that all of us need to understand who the candidates are, what the issues are, and go out and vote for the person who is going to be the right person to express our collective will, because that's what our politics is. It is our way of expressing our collective will. And so you vote into place the people who are going to make the rules that expresses our collective will, that's going to spend the money that is expressing our collective will, that is going to vote on the projects that is expressing our collective will, and on and on and on and on and on. And it's ridiculous right now. This year, we are probably going to vote into, well, unless somebody else shows up that isn't getting traction now, and I would blame our media systems, which are all centrally supporting our energy systems. It's a whole industrial complex. It's a multi-industrial complex, or a multi-industrial complex. It's the military industrial complex, it's the energy industrial complex, it's the pharmaceutical industrial complex, it's the uh, transportation industrial complex. And they're all linking up and morphing into this one big thing, this one big centralized. And why is this happening? Because of our energy systems, our centralized energy systems. And I believe that a greater understanding of who we are as source energy, and then our getting off of fossil fuels and decentralizing our power systems is going to immediately begin the healing of planet Earth and the beginning of the new age that I think that we really, I can see it. I can see what the possibility is. Now, I don't see it by looking around me and seeing, oh yeah, I see we're working hard towards these new energy systems and this understanding of, but I feel it in my heart. You can turn on YouTube and there are so many wise voices. There's so many people who are starting to inkle what's what the truth of this situation really is, this divine matrix that we all are co-inhabiting, and we are co-creating this common reality at the same time that we are individually each absolutely creating our own unique individual reality within this one common one. That is to the further end of this, of promoting this consciousness, this understanding of who we really are, and the space that we are actually occupying, and what is the method of looking at it in order to understand it more clearly and create more consciously what we actually want out of it. Um, I think that that's the name of the game. I think that's what we're all moving towards. Uh, so I'm going to close this up without actually saying everything that I usually say. Here's your emotional guidance scale. This has to do with interpreting the vibrations that your inner being is giving you. So your inner being is always, always giving you positive vibration. You might be interpreting a negative one. That would be because a thought that you've taken is out of resonance with what your inner being is thinking. That's what anything on the negative part of this emotional scale, that's the meaning of that. We'll talk about that more some other days. That's all Abraham talks about, is the meaning of your emotions, your inner guidance system, your vibrational nature, and how your inner being is marking your preferences and then trying to guide you towards your preferences, guiding you towards what you want, the rendezvous that will please you, the love, the satisfaction, the connection, the great ideas, and the fun experiences. That's what your inner being is trying to guide you towards. Your dreams come true, your happily ever after, your what you prefer. Your life has caused you to emit these particular vibrational frequencies that are the expression of your preference. It's like things that you didn't like in life are causing you to express a frequency a vibrational preference of this is what I would prefer, this is what I would prefer. And your inner being only positive vibrational energy, is marking that in a positive way. This is what you want, this is what you want, this is what you want. And then trying to guide you there in a general spirit kind of way. It's saying anything in this general field will lead you to something that you like. Now, the specifics of it, you have to pick because you are this system that is the general, um, uh, broader perspective with a more broad based, actually, it goes all the way to the allness. It understands where everything is. And like I said before, this is when I had my aha moment and I went, oh, this holographic feedback system of the actual unified universe, the unified physics, is why it's true, why it can be true that your inner being knows what you want and where everything is. And the confluence of these two great teachings is what I want to focus on because I believe it will bring us to a better understanding of who we are, a better understanding of where we're going, how to get where we want instead of just, you know, I do not want to create that dystopian, um, post apocalyptical future that so many shows like to illustrate. You know, after we've killed everything on the planet, then, whatever, then we escape to Mars and try it again. And the answer is we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that because if we can't make it work on abundant planet Earth with all of its biological diversity, we certainly are not going to make it starting from scratch on a planet where nothing is there to begin with. You know, we have to understand who we are and we have to get on a better energy system. It will decentralize everything, and I promise you, all of our mundane problems will shift. I think they will largely improve. We will come up with a whole new set of questions that we need answers to, but one epoch at a time, one eon at a time. If you don't believe that we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, I like to bring this up. This is the subject of cymatics. These are all cymatic patterns. These cymatic patterns were uh, created by piping a frequency through some sort of an electronic device. And it's translating the frequencies into these different patterns. Every frequency creates a different pattern. The original study of cymatics was done a little bit differently. Hans Jenny, who was the one who sort of founded this field of study, it's the relationship of vibration to form, is what it is. And the original studies was done, he would take a metal plate that he could pipe a frequency into so that it would vibrate at the frequency that he's piped into it, right? You sprinkle a granular medium onto the top of the metal plate and you pipe a frequency through it and it creates a pattern. You increase the frequency of that frequency that you're putting in, you make it more a higher vibration, and the complexity of the pattern that appears changes. Now, I want you to imagine what's going on right now, and this is going to be the last thing I'm going to leave you with. Imagine what's going on planet Earth right now with human systems. There's a lot of stuff that from the past that we still hold on to. There's a lot of things in the last 10, 20 years that have freaking changed. The children coming into life right now are coming into a very different world than the one that I grew up in. I was born in 1960, and so that's when all my growing up happened. Since the 80s, since the 70s, since the 60s, oh my gosh, things have changed. And some of the things from the past are still present, and some of them are, they're phasing out. Other things are phasing in. Now remember, we're talking about this in reference to the vibrational universe. What you're looking at, because the vibration always precedes the form, what you're looking at is some things are vibrationally coming into being and other things are passing away. And right now, if you, so my point is, look at these patterns on the metal plate, upper right, lower left. That's what those are. When you change the frequency, what'll happen is in between the two patterns, the one that was there and the one that's becoming, the one that's passing away and the one that's coming into play, there'll be a moment when the whole thing looks kind of chaotic. It doesn't really look like either pattern. Some of both aspects are in existence still. And if you are clinging to old patterns that are passing away, I promise you, you're feeling nervous right now. You're feeling nervous about yourself. You're feeling nervous about your future, about your family, about your ability to cope, about what's happening next, about what's happening in politics. You're nervous about it because you aren't standing on solid ground. You're identifying with, oh, I need to finish this up because if I am going bowling, and I think I feel good enough to go bowling, I'll wash up and I'll be careful. I don't think I'm actually going to make anybody sick. I'm not going to French kiss a single person down there. So, but anyway, that visual helps you understand perhaps this moment that we are in. So look forward. Look forward. Don't look back. Look what's coming into being in a positive way. And I'm going to help us do that because sometimes, you look around and it's hard to see the positive because your neighbor seems to be losing his mind. They all seem to be losing their minds. How could they elect that person or the other person? They're both awful. They're both awful. Now, absolutely, I'm going to vote for one and not the other, even though I think he's awful, because I can't vote for the authoritarian dictator. Although, if he wins, then that means that's a whole nother meaning of where we are. It means he's the smasher. He's the one who is here to shake up our collective will system, our governmental political system, because it's not sustainable and it can't sustain, and a lot of our institutions need to come down. Now, I personally do not. I think that things also could be done very much more peacefully and incrementally, and if we would turn in the correct direction and then just start looking at how things really are, we could do this with a lot less um, lurching discombobulament, discombobulament, discombobulatement. I don't know. I'm making up words. I think it could be a lot easier. I'm not going to vote for the authoritarian dictator, but if he wins, well, things are always working out for us, and things are always working out for me, and even no matter what happens, that's true. That is true. And so you have to back up a step and recalculate the meaning of what you're actually seeing. We are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, and if you want to understand the world, you've got to understand that this is a vibrational event. It's an energy event. It doesn't make the kind of sense, perhaps, that we have been taught that it does. So, anyway, I have made it over an hour. I think I'm going to stop right there. I have things to do, places to go, people to see. But I'll be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. We're going to quickly get us up to speed with the point of the general thesis. We're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. The mathematics and the physics calculations have been done to unify quantum and cosmological universe, the quantum universe and the cosmological universe. If you haven't heard that news, it's because it's not actually being screamed on major media sources like it should be, but it has been done. And our better understanding of all of these things is going to bring us to a brighter, more fulfilled, happy future that I, for one, am very much looking forward to. I do not want to live anymore in a world where the diversity of the biology on this planet is shrinking. It should be growing all the time. All the time. Diversity, diversity is the name of the game. Diversity in thoughts, diversity in um, physicality, all of that. So, anyway, until tomorrow, I'm so glad you joined me today, and I hope that you join me again tomorrow. And until then, I know this is a horrible, corny line, and I'm so sorry, but it's so true. Until then, may the source be with you.